until that clock makes the first chime of the hour. Once that happens, you may fire at your convenience.
Whoa, now, what if somebody gets too excited and starts shooting early?
Yeah.
They'd be cheats. And they'd be eliminated from the contest.
Whoever is standing after the draw is the winner. If both men are still standing, you must continue firing. Do I make myself clear? Gentlemen, the street is yours.
I only wound you, kid.
You're a con man.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Michigan Bros Grow Show, episode number 29. This week's guest is Old School Player from NutrientShootouts.com. Welcome, Old School. Welcome, Sequence. And in the background is one Mr. Abolish Farms, our producer. Welcome, fellas. How's it going tonight?
Going good. Going good. Late night.
Yeah, late night recording as always. Here on the Zoom studios. I don't know what we would call that, but thank you for joining us. Really excited about talking to you. You have a lot of knowledge about a lot of things. We've already talked about lighting and stuff in the pre-show, and I'm excited about getting into things. I guess as an introduction, what do you do at Shootouts.com?
Oh.
It already started.
Already fucking started.
So when I started NutrientShootouts.com, the YouTube channel about 5 years ago, my main focus was directly to compare nutrient lines, their effectiveness, and their price point. And it kind of evolved more into microbial testing, soil testing, and then now lighting testing and some other technologies and stuff like that as they come along. A lot of people do unboxing and stuff like that. I try to go a little bit further and do full grow outs and showcase what products I feel are good. I don't really I'm not sponsored by anyone. I tend to seek out the products that I want to compare. I am initiating soon another 6-way shootout, and it's going to be a powdered shootout. So I'm
excited for that.
Many different powdered nutrients to choose from, and it's taken me a long time, but I finally whittled it down to 6. So now I talk to these people and we get things going. So
we're going to have a 6-way shootout between 6 different nutrient companies, and you're going to run it on how many different plants to do that with?
So the way that I do it is in my 12K setup in the barn, which is a flood and drain system. And flood and drain's a little tricky when it comes to like powdered shootouts, but I've done things like Nectar for the Gods before in a flood and drain. So I can basically just use fresh RO water to, granular feeds like Geoflora, Floraflex, which Floraflex can be mixed, but it, psychonutrients has their one part. So there's a bunch of them that I'm going to be doing. What I tend to do is it's 6 flood and drain trays, 4x8 trays, 100-gallon reservoir, RO water, and they're under, each 4x8 tray is under 2 1,000-watt HPS Fortilux bulbs, pushed by Galaxy Legacies, usually at 1,100 watts. I push them hard. And there typically will be 2 plants of the same genetic in each tray. Did I say that right? 2 plants of each genetic in each tray, and those same exact 2 plants from the same mother will be in all 6 of the trays. So you'll have 4 genetics in each tray with 6 of the same. 4.
Yeah, that's hard to explain, right?
Cuts.
I know I can say this right.
Right. So we basically, let's say that we were doing this and I had 1 mother plant. So I've got 6 tables. So I could potentially cut 12 clones off this mother. and I could turn around with that, put 2 of those plants in there, so I know that these are all the same clones. So when we get to the end of the run, I can actually have some kind of measurable difference and know that there
Right.
wasn't a strain variance itself,
Right.
that it was more among the lines of the nutrients. Sweet.
Yep. It's the typical 4 plants per 1,000-watt layout. Since there's 2 lights over a 4x8 tray, you get 4 genetics in each tray, 2 plants of each genetic. That way, if something goes wrong with one, you still have another one of that genetic to compare against all the other 5 trays, the other 5 nutrients. That's how I did it for the last 6-way shootout and the first 6-way shootout using sub-LVC cuts.
So how stoned were you when you came up with this the very first time and you were like, you know what I think I'm going to fucking do? I think I'm going to do this.
Well, not a lot of people do flood and drain. And I was coming from a different property with a 4K setup, doing it the same way. But I put a little more work into that. That grow room, if you look back on my old videos, you can see a video of my old grow room. It's 123 inch by 103 inch by basically as tall as me, 5'2". And I had put the 100-gallon reservoirs in the ground on each side with 2 4x8 trays, Z-Wave automation, variable fans, cameras, everything in this tiny little room. And it worked phenomenal. And so I kept that model because I always loved flood and drain. I never really liked like the grower MD drip feed systems that were always so hard to calibrate and stuff like that. At the time, just wasn't a big turn on. So when I got out into this property, I said the main grow room, the 48 plant capable grow room has to be flood and drain. So I kept it as a big flood and drain. I used 2x4s to support the trays, and I've got 2 trellises that hang from the ceiling to support the canopy, and it's a really great setup. And
I want to convert to flood and drain for my veg because
Yeah.
I use drip and flower, but your veg is always so variable. How many plants are going to be in there, how big they're going to be. You can just sit them all on the table and just run it,
When you say flood and drain, I think of like Vader OG, and I think of, local homegrown hero, MedGrower One, with his flood and drain tables. And you can see, looking at their YouTube channel and their Instagram content, what they're able to tease out of the genetics, man.
Yeah, Vader's flood and drain, setup is very easy. Anybody can really get into it, and it works very well. But doing it in flower is a little bit different, and then trying to do it for something like Nectar for the Gods. When I was doing that first shootout between Nectar, let's see, what was it? It was Emerald Harvest, Nectar for the Gods, New Millennium Nutrients, and a couple others. I realized that Nectar isn't one of those things that's just going to flood and drain. So when I was running the feed, which I only had to feed 4 times a week, but when I was running the feed, I would go out there with glass, dip it in the res, and make sure that the feed was getting on top of the soil and permeating in all of the tables. So I was putting in the work to make sure that I could at least even out the whole test criteria to get the quality, to get the best representation. It was supposed to actually be Blue Planet Nutrients because they had all that flooding in Texas a couple years back. I couldn't get it, which I have it now, and it's a great nutrient line. But
as somebody that doesn't know anything about flood drain, really beyond the basic principles, what makes a nutrient good or bad for that system?
Well, I mean, my flood and drain systems use 1,000 gallon per hour pumps, and I can pretty much feed anything in there, but it's going to be a mess with something like Nectar or to a lesser level Dominion.
So like
Organics.
Thicker stuff.
Yeah, thicker stuff like
stuff.
Dominion Organics, which has got a lot of vinegar kind of sludge to it. It can always be messy, but good clean nutrient lines like Blue Planet Nutrients, Remo Nutrients, Hurricane Hydroponics, Monterey, New Millennium Nutrients, anything in a bottle like that is going to be good. And of course, yes, there's a lot of powdered nutrients. Floraflex is actually incredible. And we can talk about that, how actually clean it is in the reservoir and how good it worked in this last little 25 plant grow I've got going right now. But yeah, the basic idea of flood and drain is you pump the water up from the reservoir, and when the pump's shut off, gravity pulls it right back in. I run air stones, 3 large air stones with a big, I think it's like a 2 liter per minute air pump. And so I keep everything highly oxygenated and always agitated throughout my testing too. It just helps me guarantee that everything is, ppm even from edge to edge on feed, because reservoir is still like 4 foot by 4 foot. So you can get slurry and dead spots and stuff like that. So
Yeah, 100 gallons is a lot of people use like a 40-gallon res underneath the flood and drain table. 100 gallons is quite a
100
bit
gallons. I'm doing a little different, and I kind of stumbled onto something that I think a lot of people kind of are doing naturally now. But I use the air pots, and they're only 3.5-gallon air pots, and they auto prune the roots. But I'm getting away with plants that are typically like the size of a plant you would get in like a root maker 7-gallon pot in only 3.5 gallons. And it's mostly the nature of the pure cocoa, but it's also the fact that
I was gonna say, yeah, that's like cocoa results there.
yeah, when you flood and drain, you're still watering from the bottom, and it takes all 100 gallons to get that table to the overflow point where you're getting halfway up on 3.5-gallon air pot. So capillary action still sucks the water right up to the top, but most of the water is chasing downward, and that's what you want, is your roots to chase the water and chase downward, and not be like so focused on like some drip emitters at the top and stuff like that. But what I found out, especially with the air pots, because of their design, and some fabric pots have problems with this, depending on if you add a lot more perlite, you can kind of negate it. But with the plastic air pots, the holes are everywhere on it. When that water leaves, gravity will pull the rest of the water out of the medium. It'll still stay like 50-50 hydrated, no problem for days on end, which is great. But it pulls the water out, it pulls air right back into the soil. And so the roots are incredible, and the canopy height just explodes. And so I've been able to get away basically with very large plants, very good yields, not a lot of soil. So
when I used to use air pots, that was the thing, is that when you would use those, I used the 2-gallon one a lot, is when I would transfer, it would be like solid root mass. It wasn't just to the edges of the pot. So those are pretty slick.
Yeah, it really, and I think people are seeing a lot more performance like that as you start to see people getting, below 5 gallons. And there's a lot of people down into 3 gallons that are growing, more than 4 plants, but even 4 plants under 1,000 watt or under.
Well, that's where flood and drain is nice, because
even
I don't have
5x5. Yeah.
Flood and drain is nice because I don't have to grow 7-gallon pots. If I'm watering or fertigating, 3-4 times a day, I may even do it during the dark cycle if I have it in a small enough pot and it needs it. But it allows me to not have as much waste at the end of my run and not as much input. I'm not buying as much soil, and I'm not having to discard as much soil, by using the smaller pots and by increasing my watering.
Yeah, I'm using 3-gallon pots actually, and not doing flood drain, but 3-gallon cocoa pots, and getting the exact same,
right,
idea.
But it's very labor intensive for you though too, as a hand waterer on 3-gallon cocoa pots.
No, I'm all automated now. So
No,
it's like
in
very
the
similar
old days,
idea.
Before you started this new system, I mean, it would be.
Oh yeah, it would be, but I'm trying to compare like the flood drain to the drain to waste, I guess, is my system. But we have the same principal idea in trying to use a little bit of media and make big ass plants, which is basically what I was saying.
Hand watering can be done, well. The way I hand water out of the rest of my grow rooms is like garden hose flow rate, because I want to hit the plants with as much water as I can, as quick as I can, to get the same effect. I want to potentially flush any salts or anything, bad or residual out of the medium to the point where there's a little bit of runoff, and then I want the rest of it to run off and suck air back into the soil, because the more oxygen you get back in the soil, the more you get explosive growth. And you can see it the next day. You can see it just explode in the growth after a good feeding, where you have, an aggressive high flow feeding. I don't say that I don't see these things through like drip emitters, but people that just like, spray a little bit just to keep the roots like moist kind of setups, I don't get it. And I tend to see them. On the flip side of that, though, I see a lot of people that do flood and drain, and they can feed like 4 times a day, and I've never had that situation. I have good airflow. I've got great air exchange, lower canopy airflow, but I can still, with any nutrient blend that I've seen, I can still run, only 4 feedings a week, it still holds on and retains the moisture. At least the bulk of the nutrient shootouts that I've done has been in the old Psycho green bags. It's Psycho cocoa. It's really soft. It doesn't, cut the roots, but it also has a good amount of peat in it. And so I'm a big fan of peat, and I see peat is already starting to make a comeback a little bit. Peat and perlite and cocoa seems to be pretty good. And this last 6-way shootout, what I did was a 50-50 mix of cocoa and pro mix because I wanted to get some of that peat back. So, and it seemed to do very well. It also is a little better for the rhizosphere than just pure cocoa, because a lot of the nutrient lines, they want lower pHs like 5.8, and that's pretty harmful for microbial. So whenever you can get a situation where you can have a house or a food already built into the soil, but it still acts as an inert soil like peat moss basically does, then you're good to go. So you get a little bit better microbial performance out of things like green microbiotics. I've had really good luck with these guys. They actually have a new formulation. They got mainly 4 different microbials, and haven't had any problems. Great root development. Nothing that I can ever say that ever got to my plants for anything, diseases. So.
Okay, so we have consistent soil, we have consistent lighting. So what's next? What's the next thing that we're going to try to do for our shootouts? Are we measuring things weekly? Are we just doing it at the end? How did you come up with this?
So moving forward, what I wanted to do for this last 6-way shootout, I wasn't truly able to do. But moving forward for the next level of shootout, I'm going to be attempting to not only do Brix readings with I have 2 digital Brix readers, and these will take a 0.5 milliliter of basically the water expelled from the leaves. And it'll measure the sugar level, which will give you a performance indicator of how well a plant is doing at any given point in time. They use them in the wine industry and in many cultivation
and if I'm not
programs.
mistaken, a higher Brix level also has to do with the plant's ability to fight off any kind of pathogens and basically just overall general health, right?
Yeah, if you're getting Brix levels of, I believe it's like 16 or above, especially in cannabis, which is kind of hard to do, but I think nowadays people are going to be hitting that pretty readily. Then yeah, most bugs will turn away from that sugar, and it's just too much for them. But at the same time,
how do I achieve that? Do I achieve that by feeding more sugars itself? Do I give them molasses? Do I have to give them something like NPK? How do I do that?
Well, being very diligent about your NPK dosages and monitoring your pHs, and like with this last grow that I'm running, I've put I've variated between 5.8 and 6.2 because nitrogen is choked at 5.8. And, throughout even like the first 2 weeks of flower, I still like to push nitrogen pretty hard while everything is, finishing stretching. And so I like to vary between a 5.8 pH, and then I go to a 6.2 and hit them with a heavy microbial. So yeah, it's basically just not screwing up. It's having the right environment, making sure the plant never stresses, because you can't really feed sugars. I've tried to stop feeding any sugars to the roots at all, because plants can't do anything with sugars. The microbials can. If you want to brew a tea until it stops foaming, because if you're putting any molasses in, you're just calling for bugs to feed off of something in the soil, and that tends to kind of turn me off. So I'll do tea brews, microbial teas, but I definitely will not try to put any molasses directly into the soil anymore. And yeah, you just have to just spend time in your garden and stay on point. I've not seen anything that really pushes the Krebs cycle like some holy grail. I know I try to use a couple little things that I do, like with Floraflex this time around, is instead of using a CalMag, I would use the Epsom salts for the magnesium. And for a calcium supplement, knowing that my Floraflex would always drop to about 5.7, is I would use pH Up from Nectar for the Gods, which is calcium. So they get their calcium that way. in a natural source that actually would help, stave off pests and, build stronger cell wall structures. And when I go to pH down, like with a lot of these bottle nutrients, I'll actually use, I think it's Fox Farm, if I'm not mistaken. Their pH down is citric acid. Citric acid is a direct proponent to the Krebs cycle and producing glucose from photosynthesis. So
right now you've
later
mentioned the
in
Krebs
flower,
cycle twice. We have to figure out what this Krebs cycle is for a listener, because they're going to be like, hold on, man.
it's basically the process of photosynthesis, of uptaking the different nutrients and converting them with the sun into the actual sugars that produce Brix. And then the sugars, of course, drive the cellular expansion and growth. So have I found any holy grail? No. Am I doing a lot of research on it? Yes. But definitely using citric acid, I feel, over any other pH down for your pH method gives just a little bit of kick, and it's something that is actually more natural for the plant, and it can actually uptake it directly, and it is directly related to the molecular dump off and the molecular retake during the Krebs cycle of producing glucose. So,
well, importantly for the hydro systems, you run flood drain. It must consistently hold pH.
Yeah.
As well.
Yep. And I've found most nutrient lines are very pH stable. So you don't have to do much. Like 30 mils for 100 gallons can bring you right into range of most of these bottled nutrients. So, and again with Floraflex, I mean, I was quite impressed when they say it dissolves clear. It really does, and when it's pretty much right at 5.8 or 5.7, it really is. And I actually like, for me, that even cutting out the silica, I went down to like 5.7 because that allowed me to add in the calcium. But most of the time people are supplementing a CalMag, but CalMag's expensive. So just use Epsom salts and use the Olympus Up from Nectar and get the calcium that way. And you'll always have a good calcium source that's readily available that'll balance out your pH. So
that's a good tip, I think.
Let's talk some lighting.
Actually, to continue on the question though, also throughout the grow, I'm going to try to be, because microbials always tend to be, one second here. Microbials always tend to be a thing that I like to try to achieve within all the shootouts. So these up and coming runs, I'll be continuing to try to run the microbiometer soil test kits. These will actually do 10 soil tests, and you have a little kit, and you have a little dropper, and you have a little stir, and you have a little chemical vial, and you have to put them in one and put them in the other and put them in the other and smear them on a card and then take a picture on your cell phone. But it actually gives you a pretty accurate reading of the microbial density in your soil. So I will be doing that throughout the grows, probably at the beginning, 2 times during the grow, and then at the end, because they are pretty expensive kits still, but it can be very handy to actually see what microbial performance is, and if you can, if you're actually getting something out of it, as you continue to feed microbes, do they stay around? Do they go away? How much are you going to have to supplement if you're liking the performance you're getting? If you're seeing that your salted bottles are breaking down like they're supposed to because of microbials, and you're not left with any salt on the top or anything like that, then what are those numbers at? And so Microbiometer is another company that I've worked with that produces actually one of the only kits that I've ever seen to test the microbial layer within soil.
So when you say microbes and you're doing these shootouts, are you using a consistent microbe throughout all of your tables? Or are you mixing those up too?
Yeah, I will always use microbial, and like I typically will use I'll typically use Mycos to amend all my soil. So Extreme Gardening Mycos has always been a staple. I've never really done a lot of Azos. I've never seen the need myself. And then for the liquid feed, I'll always do the green microbiotics, because this is more of like an inoculant type of fungus compared to what the roots get you out of the azos. So colony forming, root growth off of the azos, and then the inoculant type of bacteria off the green microbiotics. And those always get the same dosage all the way through. So that just keeps plants healthy and keeps them safe, and that way we can get results. So now you want to talk about lighting.
Lighting technology. So something that I thought was really interesting is that you've compared some lights, and you talked about that a little bit earlier, is that you're starting to compare lights on your website, nutrientshootouts.com. And you were talking about in the pre-show new ceramic metal halide lights and new ceramic HPS lights, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm really interested in you talking about those with our viewers, because up and coming and kind of breaking technology and lighting happens just about every day. So staying on the forefront is important.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And at MJ BizCon, we saw a lot of different lighting technologies, a lot of surprisingly a lot of commercial LED lighting strips that have pushed past the 600 watt wattage mark. They're getting into 700 watts with the new ES 700 from Portalux. There's companies that I'm even working with 800 watt and higher units that are meant to effectively compete with double-ended hoods that are hung 5 foot tall for a 5x5 canopy. And LED technology is great for sure. I have an HLG 550 and I have the QB288 boards with the R spec myself that I use for supplemental lighting, and they produce some hellaciously nice thick nubs.
That's
and
basically what I'm using to grow, just about.
Yep. Yeah, they're great lights. And of course I've got my my DIY Grow Mouse 5 buck 600 watt, much like what Shield is selling right now on their site. So, and I've had great luck with that too, but I'm still primarily 24,000 watts worth of HPS. And I'm consistently quoting and looking to upgrade all of that light. HPS is good, but it's not great anymore. But there is similar technology that has definitely been advanced. And one of those technologies right now is the ceramic HPS. And ceramic HPS is much like ceramic HPS. Much like a ceramic metal halide, it produces a little bit less lumens, but it produces a better red spectrum. And Portalux has got a really nice bulb out right now that's in their SC600 fixture with a custom hood that goes with it. It's meant for a 4x4 footprint, and it actually starts up fairly dim, really deep red, seems to wake the plants up really well and get them photosynthesizing much quicker before it turns on its full, brightness. And the spectrum is I believe it's like 93 CRI on the spectrum, so pretty close to the sun. It's intense light, but it still pushes the lumens like you would expect from a good HPS.
So really quick, what's CRI for our viewers?
CRI is your color rendering index. So the closer to 100 you are, the closer to representing the spectrum of the sun. So the higher the CRI, like with LED lights, take the HLG 550, the infamous Samsung 301B diode. Those diodes are basically blue diodes with a phosphorus coating on them. That phosphorus coating is the only thing that's cutting their lumens down a little bit, and it's cutting their CRI down to what it has to be. Is that phosphorus coating makes it a 90 CRI. So, and if I'm correct, I think the lower in Kelvin temperature you go, the lower the CRI has to go, because the more phosphorus is needed to produce red against that blue. So, but with these type of bulbs, it's nothing but just light coming out of it at almost a perfect spectrum. And so what we've seen from Portalux is they've come out with basically this bulb and a double-ended at 600 watts. So you have a DE option, which I'm currently using a different technology in DE, and they also have a 1,000 watt version. And these bulbs are going to be a better spectrum than any HPS that they've had now, running on ceramic type of platform, and they're going to be a little more efficient, a little less heat, more dialed in UV, so much better platform for all the old bulb growers And from what I've seen, they can still run on most digital ballasts. So
That's what I was going to ask is what ballasts you have to use for those.
and now this is something that I've actually been testing with Cultilux. So right now in my current grow, I have the Nanolux DEX2 fixture. It's a twin 600 watt. So it's 1200 watts, but it's two 600 watt double-ended fixture with hoods. Old fixture. People know these fixtures. They're old. And I've been running the new single element 600 watt Cultilux CMH bulb. It's 96 CRI. It's 100,000 lumens. So it'll penetrate the canopy. It has an incredible spectrum. It's a 3K bulb, and in the 1,000 watt version, they have a twin 500 watt element to make a 1,000 watt DE, and that actually comes in a 4K and a 3K. And we just finished up and we're harvesting now, so I'll have some results from that soon. But those bulbs are really, really close to perfect spectrum. They produce the right amount of UV, the right amount of IR, and the growth can be the nugs. I mean, the shape of the colas, everything is to my liking. And you don't have to necessarily run your room hotter to get that leaf temperature. You don't necessarily have to have the most manageable canopy. If you're running multiple strains in one room, you're probably going to get better performance out of a bulb like that, out of an HPS, a ceramic HPS, or a ceramic metal halide, just because the brightness, the light can usually permeate better through the canopy and get you a little bit more yield for a little less maintenance. Of course, if you can, lollipop and under canopy, clean up your plants, but for those unruly, stretchy plants like a 10-week GMO, you know, you're going to have a tall plant no matter what. A light like the Cultilux CMH puts you into that realm of, you know, $1,000 LED setup, but for a lot cheaper. You know, 600 watt Cultilux. I mean, the bulk of what I'm running is under the 600 watt Cultilux CMHs, and they're incredible. So, and I can be pretty far away from the canopy. Like I did most of my light readings. I'm trying to remember what the numbers were, but the 1,000 watt in the Diva, I think I was 4 feet away at over 900 ppf. So more than enough light for flowering, miles away from the
Oh, that's a ton of light.
Wide light spread. It was 5x5 space basically. In the end, I hung the light 5 feet above the canopy.
Yeah,
that's
true
more of a
5x5,
commercial setup,
not just like
Yeah.
an advertised 5x5,
Yeah.
like a real live one.
Yeah, they're really there with a good reflecting hood, you know, and some real thought into the design, you know, of how the hood reflects the light. And yeah, you can get some incredible response. And I think with the 600, I ended up being 30 inches away from the canopy to be at 857. It's on one of my videos, but I think it was 857 ppfd right under the bulb. And I think it faded down to 710 at the edge of the 4 foot with just a single 600 CMH, not the twin. So, but
that's really good, you know, because all the research that I've done on lighting, and you're more intelligent about it than I am, just talking to you, I've established that, is that you're looking for like 700 to 900 or so in your canopy. So that's perfect numbers.
Yeah. I mean, you can veg all the way from like 300 to like 500, and then you can really kick it up a notch into flowering. So, but it's hard to say one way or another. I mean, the problem with bulbs is they eventually wear out and they diminish. But in LEDs, you know, there's kind of an argument, and there's some research going on right now. And myself, I've already noticed a 10% diminish on my 561 diodes. My older quantum boards have some diminished light, and my grow mouse light, which I push at more than 100%. So, because they're more than capable of it, but I push the diodes pretty hard. And I did the same exact thing with the QB288 R spec. And I haven't noticed but 7% on the R spec, but there is some diminishing output, and it's not the driver. The driver seems to be putting out exactly the same amount of power. So we're starting to worry that there is going to be a problem with LED lights actually diminishing, but I don't think it'll ever be enough where it really matters. The return on investment, I think, is pretty good. But with that being said, and people are going to hate me for saying this, I think China, you know, putting a lot of better lights into the market now is hopefully going to help either drive the market or drive the lights that we want to see come down in price a little bit more.
Yeah, I think competition is good for everyone.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, there's some really, really, really good, basically like Samsung strip lights that have come out from some Chinese manufacturers that they're pushing pretty hard. And, we're talking $600 in the next few months that we'll start seeing hitting the market. So there's definitely like options coming up soon for people who want to get into the industry, but the technology still has to prove itself from them. But with the way that it looks like they're going, with the latest diodes too, they might be getting lower bin diodes, but the diodes aren't going to fail. They just might be a couple % off. So, yeah, there you go. It is what it is. I mean, we've seen LED, of course, prove itself over and over again, but in my opinion, you do have to either run a little bit higher room temperature, and that allows you to kind of force chasing VPD a little bit to get the leaf temperature, or you can supplement, a simple infrared, turtle light to produce infrared light for your room, so you get the metabolism. Because if the metabolism of the plant doesn't match the amount of light that you're feeding it, that plant will go purple quick. You'll be feeding it Epsom salts all day and all night, and then potassium and phosphorus behind it to keep up with deficiencies, because the plant's not warm enough to deal with that light. And so to have LED lights that aren't producing IR, which is another big thing I talked to Rick and the guys at Fordelux about, is they have to put UV and IR in their light. And the ES 700 they just come out with has both those in it, because they need to have a leaf temp, because to be able to run a room at 83 or 84 degrees and then force your humidity past 65 almost to 70, if you want to chase vapor pressure deficit. So supplement your UV with a simple UV bulb, CFL bulb, and supplement your IR from some other source.
That's what I've seen for UV. Like even the best lighting companies have 4-foot UV bulbs, CFL bulbs.
Yeah, there's UV LEDs, but the two problems with UV LEDs is if you drive them hard, they burn out super fast, and most of the time they're UVA, so they don't do any real help. They can do some sterilization.
I have heard that most UV LEDs are not good.
Yeah, UVA can kind of sterilize powdery mildew. That hasn't proven itself yet, but the guys who make Greenhouse Speeding here, the parent company, they actually have a LED bar that's a UVA bar that they're marketing as like a anti-powdery mildew, anti-bug repellent UV type of thing. It's not ozone. It's something to do with the spectrum of light that seems to work during their testing, but there's not been a lot of that out yet. But I'm also looking into that technology too. So when I see stuff like that, like at Canicon and stuff like that, yeah, I jump all over it. So
I enjoy that you're on kind of the knowledge, the forefront of the stuff. It's like having the buddy that's always up to date on computer stuff.
I try.
Yeah.
I'm a computer guy, so I try to do that too.
Yeah, it's hard. So the next time I'm looking for lights, I just know who I'm going to talk to first.
Exactly.
Yeah, light technology is all over the place. I mean, there's still people talking about plasma. There's CFL growers. Yeah. I mean, you can grow with anything. It's just now it's what's the most efficient way to grow. And like I do LEDs, but personally I push them hard. They're not meant to be efficient. They're meant to grow a plant. So I push them hard and I make sure that the light gets as many places as I can get, because I might not be able to quite even out the canopy perfectly or what have you. So
all about that penetration, baby.
Exactly. So this thing works. Nice.
We've talked about everything that I had on my bullet points that we wanted to hit on this episode. Is there anything else that you want to speak on? Do you want to talk about your garden? What do you got going on?
So right now I've got almost all my clones are rooted and transferred into solo cups right now from the mother. So I have 39. Well, now I have 40. So I have 40 genetics right now. And the old mother plants are about to be flipped into flowering. And of course, the new mother plants are going to be replacing them. So, and then we're harvesting the GMO, the swashbuckler, the rainbow chip. The rainbow chip is really good. I just pulled some of it out and it's incredible. I want to get the herbs now drier. I've got a food dehydrator that I think I can modify, but I want to get the herbs now and try to play with one of those too.
I think Eagle's got a discount code for you.
Yeah, I got to talk to him. And I've got some of that herbs and Lost Leafs Primal Punch is really good too. So
there's a listener that's out there that said, hold on, man. Now, old school player, you said you have 40 different genetics. Are you just going to skate on down the road and just drop 3 little breadcrumbs for us and skirt off? Oh, there's somebody out there, man.
I got a lot, I know. Luckily, I got a big plant count, but yeah, I've got the 5 Lost Leaf genetics that I got, just like 6 months ago. Now I have the Citral Blue, number 6, which is awesome.
That's a winner, yeah.
So we know that's a winner. And I actually haven't had a lot of glue crosses, and when I do, the patients love them. They just love them. Blue has always been phenomenal, but I've got a lot of
that's the picture
seeds
behind Sequence right now. If he says something,
it's a killer genetic. But I've got a lot of exotic genetics right now, like 7 different exotic genetics. I've got 6 different ocean-grown genetics. I've got 7 different subcool genetics. And I've got some Motor Rebel, and yeah, I mean, right now, pretty much nothing going on. We're just gonna flower out the mothers, and get more of those great genetics. And but January 1st, we're popping all the new seeds, like the Bruce Banner, like the Grease Monkey, like let's see, we got mac and cheese, mac berries. I got another 9-pound hammer. Mac and cheese, yeah. I believe Big Nugs just popped her mac and cheese. She's on like day 3.
That's so one to keep an eye on.
But yeah, that's gonna be incredible. So never had a mac strain, I always wanted one, and luckily I got gifted a bunch of different genetics from another group of guys. But yeah, I've got a lot of different genetics. I will be cutting a lot of those genetics down, so I'll be flowering them out. I've got all the mothers for everything now, but I still haven't decided what I really want to keep and what I want to get rid of.
Who stays and who's going to get the old heave-ho.
They're all incredible. My Rosetta Stone is, I mean, they were selling that down at MJ Discount. Like that was Brother Grimm's big push last weekend, or last Wednesday through Friday, was Rosetta Stone. It's such a good genetic, but they're all so good. It's going to be hard to get down to like 10.
What's the cross on that Rosetta Stone anyway?
Oh God, I don't know. It's
didn't mean to put you under the gun.
I still have all the packs, but I have to reference them because I can't remember. There's so many.
You're trying to juggle 40 things, bro, and then you've got the next run coming up too. So I feel you.
But yeah, we're gonna be popping and doing another pheno hunt of pretty much every seed that I've got. So, and we'll be cutting the mothers down. We'll be cutting the clones down and getting down to hopefully just 15 of the old mothers. It's mostly probably going to be ocean grown and some subcool and the Lost Leaf cuts. And,
the Rosetta Stone is ginger ale and White Widow.
Yeah,
White Widow.
It's crazy. I wouldn't mind doing that cuvee number 2 and kind of compare the 2 together, see how they come out. So I got to reach out to Badger on that one, but really, really good stuff. So. But we'll be doing a 6-way shootout once we have some choices. I think my Big Smooth from Exotic Genetics, my Triple Chocolate Chip from Exotic Genetics, and definitely the Durbin Tice Indy 99 cross. And 3 others will be going into veg, and we'll get off probably in February with a 6-way powdered shootout. So it'll be pretty dope.
Who's going to be the powdered ones, man? Let's hear them.
So Floraflex will be one. Greenhouse feeding, because I've had to do them for a long time. They actually have a pretty comprehensive product now. They're up to like 7 or 8 different nutrients for their system, for their setup. Geoflora was really nice to gift me enough of their top dress setup for grow and bloom. And there's a bunch more, and I can't think of them off the top of my head either because it's late, but there'll be announcements coming up on who the other competitors were going to be. Oh, yeah, that's one. Greenhouse Feeding. Greenhouse Feeding actually has a pretty good line. I wanted to do crop salt, and I also wanted to do the Psycho One Heart.
Veg Bloom.
You know, everybody talks about Veg Plus Bloom and price point and stuff like that. I kind of rolled it out kind of early. I don't see it being very competitive against the market. Nobody really seems to be using it much anymore, but everybody says
that perspective is relevant, though. I mean, that's important for people to know. You know, when you're comparing the things, the price is important.
when you get kind of later in flower, it kind of starts to get a little expensive. From what I researched, so I kind of wrote it off about 4 months ago, but everybody says Veg Bloom, and it's just like, I might have to do it just on the side just to show it.
Everybody said Veg Bloom, and I bought Jack's because it was cheaper.
When I did the last 6-way shootout at the same time, upstairs in the 6K, I was showcasing the GrowTech regular line, and I'm probably going to do the same to the new Precision line. So for people that still like, bottled nutrients that aren't that expensive, GrowTech makes great products.
That's a good point, though, because there are people coming on. I say it every damn time, but here we go again, folks. Hang on. I say this all the time. There are people coming on every day, man, and there are people that want to grow their own medicine or they want to grow their own recreational cannabis, man. Either way, not everybody can afford to run. Let's talk about this. You have a 100-gallon reservoir. Let's talk about how much that price point can be in difference. We're talking about a considerable amount of money, depending on what you're running it.
And depending on how you run it, and a lot of these nutrients, luckily, they actually can stay potent and not bind up. I mean, sometimes you have to use something like SLF 100 to kind of break them back apart. But technically, you can leave these nutrients in the reservoir for 4 weeks at a time, and just top them off. And the plants don't see any problem with them. They uptake them. The ppms are there. Microbial, everything seems to be there. Anything clean like Blue Planet nutrients, never seen I've seen a problem with a couple, but for the most part, most bottled nutrients are all the same. So, and these powdered nutrients, they're basically like slow release type of designs. So it'll be interesting to see what they do once they're kind of all just there. It's just gonna absorb it, consume it in one feeding, and then the plants are deficient. So I'd love to see what happens there, but and I got to do more research on that because SLF 100 is kind of like a holy grail on certain nutrient lines, especially like Nectar for the Gods, but more organic you get on certain lines. And I could see that happening with a lot of these powdered nutrients, these granulars. The more that you might need something like that to see what minerals are still in the soil. Are they just locked up, bound to other, minerals and things? If you break them apart, does the plant come right back? So I like doing little bits of research like that. But
so a listener question would be something along the lines of, okay, where can I find some breadcrumbs? Where can I start looking into this? If I want to start trying to weigh the pros and the cons of these things, is there a website that I can use? Should I just reach out to people? What should I do to try to, I don't know, get more informed on these changes that are coming down, man?
Well, communities like this are probably the best way to go at it. I mean, I have people reach out to me every day at all hours of the day, and I tend to send a lot of people, which I will be updating my website. The Nectar for the Gods unofficial Grow Bible will be up there, along with a bunch of new documentation that I typically give out to people. So my website, nutrientshootouts.com, will have a lot more documentation and what have you on the different grows and the different avenues you can take. But it's always best just to shoot an email and just reach out to somebody, because you kind of get a lot of biasness in a lot of other retail avenues when you reach out. So people like us, kind of your best resource, because
It's a chance for you to plug your YouTube channel and all the content
Yeah, I'm
you put out,
getting
brother.
there. I'm getting there. But you can also check out my YouTube channel at
Perfect.
youtube.com/nutrient shootouts, where you can find up to 5 years worth of videos, including my bees topping and thinning video, which has had over 50,000 views, or my psychonutrients video showing the old psychonutrients line, still good to this day, and its effective use. So
I want to thank you for coming on here and dropping a bunch of knowledge for us, like really deep lighting knowledge, which everyone is going to appreciate, I'm sure, and everything else from flood and drain knowledge to listing off your genetics.
so many genetics. Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's a great show, so I try to help whenever I can. I try to be in chat whenever I can. So glad you guys could have me on.
Yeah, we want to thank you for always showing up in our live stream and always helping us plug and promote and stuff, man. We see you out there. We appreciate you, man. You're part of the family.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. That's really great. To be honest, a couple of years back when I got out of this place, I wanted to start a live show, but it just wasn't quite in the schedule for me to do. So I'm glad other Michigan people, I said for so long, I said to Pagroli, I'm like, for so long, we got to get better Michigan growers together and show and represent, because Michigan brings the heat. We bring the heat. We're starting to bring some technology, and we're bringing a whole lot of extraction knowledge down. And honestly, we're pretty much the best in the country right now, I think, from what I've seen from the outside. So yeah, we got to represent. So here we are.
We're doing our best, man.
Mitten growers unite.
And I
That's
definitely
right.
appreciate that you wanted to create a live show and didn't, because of and acknowledging how much work it is to do, I guess.
It's
is
a
my
lot.
point.
I actually have a studio out in the 6K and everything, and it just barely ever got used. I put on Hat Family film. That's all I could do. Because when I go to work, I go to work. It's a lot of work doing. I mean, at that time, when I'm showcasing, I'm running 72 plants. So I'm running 72 plants that are monstrous. And it's a lot of work for one person. So
Yeah, and the podcast is a lot of work for one person too, so that's why we have all these different people. Like Abolish does things, Scobo does things, Eagle finds guests.
yeah, that would be something that I wish I had, honestly.
Yeah, we got tons of arms helping us out.
I'll film something and then I'll come back and just drag it in Premiere Pro and do a couple quick little pictures, drag them in, and quick little transitional effects, and then out it goes. It's just too hard to do anything other than that. So.
Well, thank you again for coming on. Is there anyone that you want to shout out in the industry that helped you out, or anyone that you think might be a good guest, or somebody we should reach out to?
Probably the main shout out that I have would be to HM Digital. Not a lot of people know a lot about HM Digital pH meters, and they were the ones who hooked me up with the Bretz meters, all my big wall mount, the HM HM300s, the HM200 handheld multi pH meters. But really, HM Digital produces a really, really nice pH and ppm meter, all-in-one meters, wall mount meters, data logging meters. A lot of thought went into a lot of these meters. These probes are actually replaceable if they ever go bad. But most of the time, you can just clean the probes with a toothbrush. That's what I recommend people do. And they'll find that their pH readings are going to be a lot more accurate for a lot longer, as if they just, store it correctly, or at least store it in the reservoir. If you have a wall mount unit, as long as it's in the reservoir, it tends to be accurate. But if a little bit of gunk gets in there and your readings you think they're off, just clean it. And that's it. You're good to go. But probably HM Digital would be who I'd give a shout out to. Definitely a great company, great pH meters. They have dosing systems now that are coming on the market, and I swear by them. Every grow room has a different HM Digital meter, and they've always been incredibly accurate.
Probe is a damn good idea.
Yeah, it's not just like the wall mounts with the dongle probes. These are actual, the ORP, the ORPs, the COM 300s, the COM combination 300, the Com 200, the Com 100. They all have, you know, replaceable probes, so it cuts cost way down. But I've never had one go bad, so I've got drawers full of them, and they're just beautiful, beautiful. So.
Well, I want to thank you for coming back on, or thank you again for coming on Nutrient Shootouts. Skilbo, is there anything else you want to say, man?
I just want to say thanks for coming on as well, man. It was great when we got to sesh with you before, and it's been a good time tonight. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to hang out and burn one, man. Thanks.
Well, Staple Sesh, so there we go. Party hardy.
Oh. I hate goodbyes.
Lloyd.
Just go.
Damn button.
Push the goddamn button!
You heard what she said.